Hello and welcome to my race reaction for the Italian Grand Prix of 2021, one of the best races of this season. There have been so many good races this season as well. I've got my phone here full of a couple of bits and notes that I've made during the Channel 4 highlights. It is currently 8:30 once again in the evening. It's a little bit late. I'm a little bit late to the race reviews and the incredible action and the one massive incident that happened this race. But without further ado, we will take a look at the current Drivers' Championship. It is no points for Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. There is still just 3 points. No, that should change. I forgot to add on the sprint points for this tally. Verstappen should be on 226, Bottas should be on 139, and Ricciardo should be on 83. A small little points change. And from the Drivers' Championship, we'll now take a look at the Constructors, where once again, I've not actually included the sprint race points, as I forgot the sprint race is awarded points, but McLaren have made it past Ferrari once again for P3 in the Constructors' Championship with their 1-2 finish this season. And with the World Championships all done and dusted, we'll briefly go over the Audience Prediction Championships, the series in which you guys, the audience, can get involved by following the videos that I release on the Thursday of the Grand Prix weekends, well ahead of all of the weekend's action, to predict what could possibly come up. And in this weekend, I actually predicted that a Mercedes or a Red Bull will not win, and that actually ended up coming true. So on screen right now is the leaderboard for the Audience Prediction Championships. Congratulations once again to Evan Darcy, who leads this with 15 out of 25. But congratulations also to Libra777 and also Scontrast, who this is their first entry into their contest, also joint 15 at the top. With Matej on 14 and myself, along with a couple others on 13, then a few others on 12, a lot of people on 11, and then a few people on 9 and 8 and 7 and 6. Adding up all of these scores to the total number of people that have entered so far, and it is Evan Darcy who stretches just a little bit in front of Joe Bischoff. 15 points now the gap at the top of that leaderboard. I am slowly slipping further and further down. I'm currently on 153 points, now behind Arturo Salazar. 1 point ahead of a Doctor Who channel, with the second half of leaderboard number 1 looking a bit like this for the entrants who haven't made it into every single round of the season so far. And then we have table number 2 for the summated points, which looks a little bit like this. Congratulations to Ratchet, Mika Tukkinen, Dan Klaver, Josh H, Marco Daly, and then in the final portion of this leaderboard we have people like Amelia Swan, Tom, Robert, and also Yogurt as well. But to quickly make it fair for all of those people who have not entered into every single race, I have worked out the average points for the races that you have entered, and that leaderboard is on screen now. So congratulations still to Schlank, who is on 16 out of 25 for the races that they have entered, and Scontrast leaps up to P2 in this leaderboard for 1 entry, scoring 15 so far. And it is here where I am definitely slipping down the leaderboard. I have an average score of 10.9, which is well below everybody else that I am around in the full season's leaderboard, with the second half of this leaderboard looking a bit like this. A whole bunch of people joint on 10 overall, with leaderboard number 2 looking something like this, with the second half of leaderboard 2 just on screen now. So if you see yourself high up in this leaderboard, you know you are doing extremely well in the world of predicting. If not, you maybe need to rub on that crystal ball just a little harder to see into the future. I am never going to say that ever again. But with all of that out of the way, it is time to sift through my phone's notes from the Channel 4 highlights. Admittedly, I am watching the highlights only on Channel 4 because I was working all day today, so if I have missed something that did happen in a little portion that was cut out from the Channel 4 highlights, please do let me know in the comments down below. But we begin. Lap 1 was intense. Hamilton got a great start on the hard compound of tyre. That was quite interesting. Hard but very fair racing into turn 3 with Max Verstappen, and very unfortunate for Antonio Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi, who started so high up in qualifying, he had a really good start, battling with the 2 Ferraris. Just into that second chicane, just a small little mess up, and then rejoined, start that again. He rejoined unsafely onto the track into the path of one of the Ferraris and then spun around, lost his front wing, safety car or virtual safety car. Now I can't remember, even though I've literally just finished watching it. But yeah, brought out the virtual safety car or the safety car to pick up the front wing that was lost, and that ruined his race, sent him all the way to the back. Otherwise, I feel points could have been easily on the board for Giovinazzi overall. As for the Max Verstappen-Lewis Hamilton incident at lap number 1, there wasn't really anything to do with that, really. It was just hard but really, really fair racing. Then next up, Bottas making early moves. Really good stuff. That's it. That's all I've got. But bear in mind, he is going past extremely slow cars at the minute. So people like the Alfa Romeos, like Kubica, etc. The Haas as well. He was going past the Haases and also the Williams, the Aston Martin. So kind of like Perez in Holland last week. Sort of to be expected to make a lot of ground really quickly in literally the fastest car this weekend. Bottas has been incredible this weekend with his new power unit on the hard compound of tyres that's lasting a lot longer than the mediums. It was to be expected that he was going to make up a lot of ground. Then next up, Ocon and Vettel incident. Yes, there was a small little incident once again into the second chicane. Extremely reminiscent, almost identical to the Leclerc and Hamilton incident of 2019, where there was no penalty for Charles Leclerc. Which, as the Channel 4 commentators pointed out, funny that, no Ferrari penalty whilst he's leading the race against Mercedes at Monza. You're not really going to penalise a Ferrari at Monza. But yeah, Ocon was penalised 5 seconds overall with literally an identical incident. But I have noted here that on the onboards, Ocon was very clearly seen checking his left-hand mirror, whereas Vettel is on the right-hand side. You can clearly see Ocon's head move left and look in the left mirror, whereas he's then naturally going to want to drift over to the right to take the racing line. So he's assuming Vettel to go on the left-hand side, which he didn't do. He was on the right. So from that respect, I can kind of see, but he should have had that spatial awareness to know that Vettel could be on the right-hand side. But overall, 5 seconds I think is justified, but it is an identical scenario to 2019. Now, next up, Red Bull's slow stop, the slow 11 to 12 second stop for Max Verstappen. This was allegedly, I heard from Ted Kravitz, the mechanic on the front right didn't hit the new button that you got to hit because they've now got the new pit stop procedures. It was the mechanic not pressing that button to send the signal to the gantry that's above the car to let it go. That's allegedly what it was. Because all the tyres looked on, everything was all good, the car just didn't go. And that is essentially what led up to the main incident. The main incident, which is up next. I've even capitalised the word incident, whether you can see that or not. The main incident between Verstappen and Hamilton. It was a couple of laps after the very slow Verstappen pit stop. Hamilton came in off of the hard compound of tyres. He even had a slightly slow stop by just 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. If that stop wasn't slow, if Hamilton's stop was not slow, he'd have been comfortably ahead of Norris, who was also ahead of Verstappen at the time, so there would have been no incident. So it was Mercedes' slow stop with Hamilton onto the mediums that caused this incident. Not directly caused, before anyone thinks that, just sort of led up to the incident. So, firstly, I have got noted here, Verstappen is already pissed off and in a mood because of the slow stop. And I've put a little quote, I can't remember if this is a direct quote or not from his radio, saying, "Don't come on the radio unless it is critical." And he very much said that in a sort of like angry tone. So he's already annoyed that he's lost 11 seconds on a potential Grand Prix victory that he could have had. So he's already in that mindset of, grr. And now to have Hamilton, your title rival, come alongside you, that's going to impact you just a little bit. Now, we know from Silverstone that they literally don't give each other an inch anywhere. We know from Imola that they don't give an inch to anyone anywhere. We know Max Verstappen doesn't, regardless of who he's driving. So this was kind of inevitable. Next up, I've got Hamilton coming out of the pits on the fresh tyres, but cold, so warming up. Yes, he's coming out of the pits, so could he have yielded a bit more as he's the one coming out of the pits into the racing traffic? Who knows? There was space for both drivers in the first part of the corner, first right. They were both alongside each other. Yes, Hamilton was majoritively ahead of Verstappen, but then coming into the left, that's where the pinch point lies if you're alongside. Exactly like Silverstone, neither driver gave in, and they crashed. Quite hefty, actually, and thank God for the halo. Otherwise, we'd have had a Red Bull rear end on top of a human skull, and that doesn't bear thinking about. So 100% thank God for the halo and that incident. Again, even though Verstappen has that 3-place grid drop and 2 penalty points as well on his licence for Sochi, that sort of erupted Twitter a little bit, that it was predominantly Verstappen's fault. I think it's more of a racing incident, much like what Silverstone was. It was a racing incident with 2 drivers that just didn't want to give in. But hey-ho, the stewards decided that it was Verstappen's fault. I suppose if Hamilton was penalised for 10 seconds and he's still maintaining his position in the race, you kind of have to penalise Verstappen in a very similar sort of incident. And as they both retired, you can't really give a retired person a time penalty, so you have to give them a grid penalty. That's a potential take. He has the grid penalty. Okie dokie, so away from the incident, we have the safety car restart was extremely good. Norris versus Leclerc, extremely good racing. That is a battle that I am very much looking forward to in the future coming years. Norris versus Leclerc versus Russell with Verstappen, Ricciardo. It's going to be mega in the next coming of years. And that battle honestly was really, really good. Ooh, the Haas pair. The Haas pair. This partnership is not working, is what I have written. Mazepin doesn't like Schumacher. I've seen this sort of ship name that someone has put together, Makita Schumapin. Yeah. They don't like each other. They do not like each other. And yes, Mazepin was completely at fault and did get a 5-second penalty, and then his engine cut. So he did get karma in the end, I suppose. Then finally, before we get to the driver of the day considerations, we've got Bottas on a charge. This was after, or with like 15 or so laps to go, when he is closing the gap, overtaking the Ferraris, and then he's behind Perez, who did get a 5-second time penalty for cutting the corner and going past a Ferrari, which is completely fair. And then I just said, honestly, the last 15 laps were kind of dull. Very tense, but kind of dull. As in, nothing really happened. It was 10 seconds covered the top 6, or 6 or 7 seconds covered the top 6 or something like that. But nothing happened. It was much like Monza of last year, where it was Gasly and Sainz, and there was less than a second between them for 20 or so laps. Nothing happened, but it was really, really tense. So it was kind of good, but a bit dull. And then finally, we will move on into my driver of the day considerations. Last week for Holland, I had 4 drivers and I narrowed it down to 1. This time, I've only got the 2. We've got Ricciardo, obviously. Stellar drive from start to finish. The best start, getting past Max Verstappen and defending from Max Verstappen for 20 laps and maintaining that high pace at the end as well after being told to speed up. Normally when the teams tell the second driver to speed up, they can't, and then the team order is implemented, but Ricciardo was told to speed up and he sped up and he made no mistakes at all. And then second driver, Bottas, obviously. P20 to P3 at the checkered flag. Really, really, really good drive. This is what Perez needed to do last weekend when the Red Bull was the faster car at that circuit, and he only managed to get to P8 or something, and he ended up with driver of the day. Yet Bottas has gone from P20 to P3, equally when he has the faster car at this track. And Ricciardo ends up with driver of the day, which I do fully understand. And Ricciardo is my vote for driver of the day because brilliant stuff. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Additionally, that's not noted in my notes that I've just remembered off the top of my head, Russell. Russell scoring more points for the Williams. The points wouldn't have come if Verstappen and Hamilton hadn't have come together, but you have to take the points when they come to you. So congratulations once again to George Russell for scoring points. But Daniel Ricciardo is my driver of the day for the Italian Grand Prix. Please let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this weekend's Grand Prix, and if you agree with me that Daniel Ricciardo is the driver of the weekend, and also what my take was on the Hamilton-Verstappen incident. But that is all I got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next episode with whatever and whenever I decide to make it. I'll see you guys then.